Welcome to the most important week of the year for the podcast industry. Welcome to Podcast Movement 2025.
Hey. Good to see y'all. I guess we're back in session because it just got real loud in here. I've got news for everybody in this room that you probably should be paying attention to, and it's that people hate advertising, which is really a little bit of a challenge because we're here in a marketing conference. We talk about advertising a lot. Knowing that this is a podcast conference, how many of y'all listen to the advertisements on your podcast when you're listening to podcasts? No. Okay, how many of y'all put the 15-second skips, right? Okay, some of us do. How many of us have ad blockers on our browsers, right? A lot of us do. What's crazy about that is that we run from advertising as fast as we can. We oftentimes subscribe and pay for subscriptions to things so that we actually don't have to listen to advertising. I have a little 3-year-old son, and I will not be ashamed to admit it, that sometimes when I can't keep my son, when I've got to get ready for the day, I end up giving him the iPad. And the other day I gave him the iPad, I go in there, I'm trying to get my chores done, and all of a sudden I hear this blood-curdling scream happen from the other room. I run over to see what's wrong with my son, and he's looking at YouTube and there's an advertisement. And he has no idea what it is, and he's like, why is this interrupting my cartoons? And that's really a shame because my name is Jonathan Ogle, hi, and I own an advertising agency. And so I'm sorry to be a disappointment to my son, but what's interesting about today's culture is that we don't like advertising, but we all belong and desire to find brands that we identify with. And today I want to talk to you about what it takes to build a brand and build a podcast brand and what we need to be thinking in the trends and in the cycle of how we view media today. And so we have been blessed at Infinite to work with a ton of different brands, from Southwest Airlines to Six Flags to Smoothie King. And I want to talk a little about what I've learned as a brand marketer and what that means to podcasts and how content is consumed today, and how we as podcasters and as content creators should be thinking about how to build our brand in today's age. And so I like to share a couple of these stats. So first off, we see 208 ads per hour on our digital screens in front of us, right? And we don't like it. We don't like to be advertised to. We want to find something that relates to us. We want to find things that we identify with. And so I love this book by Marty Neumeier, and I got to have this incredible conversation with this author. And if you've ever read the book Zag, maybe, or The Brand Flip, I want to talk to you about what he teaches in this. And it's so pertinent for us as advertisers and creators, because he says there's an old model of how brands are built. And it goes like this. Companies create brands that then attract customers, and that'll sustain the company. And that's basically the life cycle of how a brand works. But today, there's a new model that's changed, and it's basically the digital ecosystem that's changed the way that we as consumers see and believe in brands. The new model is that companies attract customers, create brands, and then it sustains. So what he's saying is the flip is that the customer is actually in control of the belief of the brand. That a brand isn't just a company saying, believe in us. It's more about the customer saying, I believe in this brand. Let me maybe show it to you or model it in a little bit of a different way, right? Going back one slide here. This is marketing, having a clear message and a clear position, like, I'm a great lover. This is advertising, saying the same thing over and over and over, right? But this is branding. It's the perception of the other person saying, I believe this about you, that makes the brand believable. It makes the brand connect with the consumer. And so what we want to do is connect with our consumers in a way that allows people to identify with us. Look, y'all know the change in media consumption. We're here at a podcasting conference, and what's interesting about a podcasting conference, we understand that new media is breaking and changing old media, right? We're looking at the traditional consumption habits change to from TV and from terrestrial radio into digital consumption. And so in that moment, in that change, this is the trend that I want you to pay attention to. Ed Elson puts it this way, that people are becoming the new brands. People are the new brands. That means that we as humans are falling out of love with brands and in love with people. We know more about our favorite influencer. We know more about our favorite content creator than we do our neighbor. Some of us know our favorite influencer or podcaster better than we do our spouse. We know what they ate. We know what they wear. We know, what workout routines they're into. And it's because we as humans connect with people emotionally because that's how we're designed, right? And so you look at this in a really interesting way. Like, for us as an agency, I can give you some stats here that I think are really important. 38% of ads that show a human face are more likely to get clicked on. Okay, that's pretty intense. Like, if I'm trying to drive performance, I need to put a face in my ad so that I can connect to someone human to human. 88% of consumers say they trust recommendations from people over brands, right? And don't we all believe that? Don't we all want a testimony from somebody else that says, I believe in this brand and that's why I relate to them? And this is the key insight here. If you want to know how to build your podcast and how to build your brand, you've got to think about it in this way. This is the key insight. This is my key takeaway, is that branding is not about people identifying your brand. It's about people identifying with your brand. It's not just about people identifying the brand. It's about people identifying with the brand. So let me unpack that in a couple ways real quick. Right now, time spent with friends is down 70% over 10 years, right? We are in this, what a lot of people call is a relationship desert, is that we don't have friends in the same way that maybe some of us in the Gen X or millennial generation think. Right now, like trends that are going on social are saying, you know what's really popular right now is in real life experiences, not just digital experiences. These are trends that are happening. 1 in 10 people say they don't even have close friends. They don't have real life people that they connect with on a day-to-day basis. Why is that a big, important takeaway for us in the podcast space, right? It's because we have an ability to create a relationship with our audience, right? We have the ability to reach in and pull somebody emotionally along into the stories that we're telling. Great brands understand that people actually crave other people. This is so important for us. As we build brands, we need to know that the people that are a part of our podcast, that are a part of our creator network, that's what people want to relate to. People are craving people. I had this great conversation with a guy named Greg Creed. Greg Creed was the CEO of Yum Brands. He created the Doritos Locos Taco, the Mountain Dew Baja Blast. He was the CEO of Taco Bell, KFC, Pizza Hut, and KFC was struggling. And he said, what can we do to reinvigorate KFC? What do we do to make this more relatable and more relevant than it has been? How do we pop sales? And you know what he did? He said, bring the Colonel back. Let's put a face to the brand once again. And when he did that, it became one of the most relevant ad campaigns that KFC had done in a decade. And so it was so important. When you look at other brands that are trying to reach into the space, you can look at Carl's Jr. right now, adapting Alex Earls from the Hot Mess podcast. They're like, if we can put a personality and a person behind the brand, we can become resonant. We can relate to people in new ways. And that's because branding is not about people just identifying your brand. It's about people identifying with your brand. It's about connecting to the values, the belief systems, and the stories that they're telling. And so when you think about that in this way, like I'll show you this example real quick. Everybody knows this famous car company and what's coming. But what's interesting about this famous car company is that this chart shows the amount of money that each of these car companies has spent to sell one car. So GM spends $582 to sell one vehicle. Ford spends $567 to sell a vehicle. And look at Tesla, $4. Why is that? Well, it's because of this guy, right? And everybody can roll their eyes, I know. But you look at this guy, and what happened is the brand became synonymous with the person. And at one time, his belief system was sustaining energy, and people that believed in the same way, that valued the same things, were connected and attracted to this personality. But then what happens? Over the last year, people are saying, I don't want to identify with that brand, even if I own the product. And so if you look at their Q1 figures, when he started showing different type of value systems that didn't connect with his audience, that didn't connect with what he originally put forward as his value system, people started not buying Teslas anymore, right? And why is that? Because people believe in the value system, the personalities that are behind the brands. What we know today, and this is important for our creator economy here, is that influencers have replaced our friends, as I was discussing earlier. When you look at a guy like Joe Rogan, he gets 3 times the viewership of traditional media channels like MSN and CNN combined. And so this is your takeaway. If you're a creator or a podcaster, you're trying to build a brand for your podcast, I encourage you to think about it this way. Don't think about how can I build a podcast brand. Think about how can I build a personality brand. Build a brand around the personalities of the host. How can we share our value system, share our beliefs, share our stories that connect and give us credibility and relatability to the audience that we're going after? When you look at Mark Zuckerberg, this is one of the most famous rebrands of all time, I would say. Millennials hated this guy when they were known as Facebook. So then what did he do? He created the metaverse. And then what happened? Everybody said, oh my God, he keeps talking about this metaverse thing. He changed the entire brand to Meta. But every time he's talked about the metaverse on his earnings calls, all of a sudden he got slammed. People hated everything that he was doing, everything he was talking about, that we all blame him for our societal problems. And so they had a really slick PR company come out and tell him a couple things. You know what they told him to do? Grow a beard, wear a chain, grow out your hair. And all of a sudden, he went on places like Joe Rogan. And what did he do? Instead of being a faceless character behind the brand that everybody else was saying something about him, he stood up and said, I'm going to be a part of the brand. And when he did this, he had a 70% rise in favorability around the same audience because he put himself as part of the brand. When you look at Mr. Beast, what's interesting about every thumbnail that you see, you'll have a lot of conversations today about how do you put the thumbnail in the right place to get the click. What do you see that is consistent about all of these thumbnails? A giant human face. So if you want to increase clicks, you've got to be able to encourage a human-to-human contact, because in a digital age of a relationship desert that we all live in, we have to make sure that we're building our brand in such a way that people don't just identify the brand, but people identify with the brand. Okay. So that was all my hype. I hope that I shared something that was exciting, interesting, and thought-provoking to you. But now I want to bring forward somebody who's taken these insights and put them into practice. One of our clients this year, an incredible CMO, incredible marketer, Danny Briones. I'm going to have him come on stage. Give him a big hand. Danny built out a podcast, and I want him to talk a little bit about what he's doing and how he's approaching as a brand builder, CMO of a giant brand, how he's using podcasts to extend his journey and connect with his audience. So with that, man, I want you to tell them a little bit about who you are and what your brand is.
Yeah, nice to meet everyone, and thank you for the introduction. I appreciate that. My name is Danny Briones. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Crash Champions. Crash Champions is one of the largest collision repair providers in the country. We have about 650 locations across the U.S. in 38 states. So for us, I mean, just hearing you speak, we've done all the traditional advertising approaches when you think about getting the brand in front of consumers. Here's the issue, at least with my business, is an accident is a 1 in 7 year event. So people are more likely to get in a car accident 1 in 7 year. Collision repair is a grudge purchase. Everybody hates collision repair. Nobody plans for it. So in order to advertise, you have to be top of mind. And the amount of money it costs to be top of mind just isn't beneficial for us. So when I started with the organization, I've been in the auto space 25 years now. But I've done all the traditional advertising pieces, and it's really expensive. It would cost me close to about $150 million to advertise our entire entity across the U.S., which just isn't viable. But what we did is we changed the conversation. So knowing that collision repair is a 1 in 7 year event, we were like, how can we get in front of more consumers on a day-to-day basis? And what we did is we built a personality, which is our CEO. He started off as a mechanic back in, before 99. He built one shop in 1999. Didn't go to college, and today he's the CEO and founder of a $3 billion enterprise.
Did you say $3 million?
No, three with a B.
$3 billion
yes,
enterprise.
Yes.
That's incredible.
And so
started as a mechanic.
Started as a mechanic and built this enterprise. So we have the storyline, right, with this, this entrepreneur who started from nothing and became, one of the largest collision repair providers. But what we did is flipped it on its head, and we said, hey, how do we get in front of more consumers on a day-to-day basis? So we took our CMO, we created a podcast, and now we talk about, on the daily, we talk about leadership, we talk about culture, and we talk about blue collar. And now we've changed the conversation from a 1 in 7 year event to an everyday conversation where people get interested on learning more about Matt Ebert, who's the CEO and founder, which connects them to Crash Champions, which is our organization.
Like one of the things that you highlighted here was it's tough in a space like collision repair
Absolutely.
to make people care, right? I mean, like, no offense to the collision repair space, but usually I'm not following those type of brands on Instagram or something like that. And so how did you get and arrive at this idea of let's flip the model on its head, and instead of doing advertising, but building a brand through a podcast?
Yeah, so again, like just looking at what people are interested in overall. I mean, the storyline that we have with our CEO is amazing overall. So what we did is, again, we just took that, flipped it on its head, and put him in the position of...
How did you build the credibility? So, like, nobody's heard of this guy, right? So how did you make him relatable? How did you build the credibility for him as a brand?
Yeah, that's a good question. We took a different approach, and hopefully this is insightful for you guys in the audience. We didn't build a podcast to begin with. We knew, again, nobody plans for collision repair. Nobody cares about who our business is. So we built a brand first around a personality, which is our CEO. And what we did is we started creating content around, what we thought made him important. But we realized quickly is nobody cares. And you know that saying that people say nobody cares until they know you care? And podcasting and branding, you can throw that shit out, basically, right? And what we realized is nobody cares until you show them the proof. So for us, as we built a personality around our CEO, basically showed the proof on what it takes to build a brand, to back blue collar, and to build an enterprise that he's been able to do. We put that in the forefront. We launched all his social channels around him specifically, and then we came in on the backside to build a brand. So we basically made this anonymous character, this interesting character, up front in order to gain interest in a personality, and then launched the podcast, and we've seen huge success. I mean, we launched the podcast late last year, and already have over 130,000 followers.
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing to see the trajectory of growth in just turning, like you said, the model of trying to just advertise to people instead of trying to relate to people on its head. So I want to show a little bit about like some of the work that you guys have done. So how did you build out a whole studio? I mean, how did you partake in this?
We took it pretty serious. Anything that I do, obviously, I take it to the max. But we have a studio in our headquarters. And we bring in guests from either the outside and or highlight our team members. And we made our CEO basically the person who interviews just other entities. And we took, again, taking a different approach, knowing that we needed to gain interest fast. We brought in big personalities. Damon John from the Shark Tank came in as a guest. We have Jesse Itzler. We have Javon Dexter, a lineman or linebacker with the Chicago Bears. Jermaine Johnson with the Jets. Anthony Scaramucci. So we built this incredible lineup in order to gain interest and basically use their influence in order to bring attention to our brand.
I think what's also interesting about that is you have how many employees, and one of the challenges I'm sure is like you've got locations, 100 employees here, 100 employees there. How do you keep in contact with all these employees, and was this a part of the tool to like reach those employees?
This is definitely part of the tool. Again, I joined the organization when we had 60 locations, and that was in early 21. We had rapid growth from 21 to today, 650 locations. We went from a $40 million company to a $3 billion, and as you can imagine, just keeping that culture connection became impossible for our CEO. You can no longer touch and feel the employees. So we launched media. I mean, we launched communications in a different way where the podcast helps our CEO and other leaders in the organization stay in front of our team members. And again, it's hard to communicate during the day because we deal with so many customers, close to 700,000 customers a year that we deal with. But everybody listens to podcasts now, and it just gives us the opportunity to connect with our team members in a different facet. And it helps with recruiting. We see it from a corporate level and a shop level. When they come to sign on to Crash Champions, they basically say, hey, I know your CEO personally. I heard him on this podcast. He seems like a down-to-earth guy. I want to go ahead and work for y'all.
Yeah, what an incredible way to like reinforce the culture and put a face behind, in some ways, a faceless industry. They're able to make a big shop of a $3 billion corporation feel small once again. I think you guys did a great job with that.
Yeah, and the other piece, too, is just trust. I mean, in our business, as you guys know, mechanics, collision repair, trust is a really big deal. And for us, in any business where trust is needed, it's important to build a personal brand because people connect with people at the end of the day, and they want to do business with people they know and people they trust. So again, launching this entity, this personality in front of the brand and the podcast has helped people connect with a person, which builds trust for them to basically bring their car to get their collision repair.
Absolutely. So talk to us a little bit about your growth over the last few years and maybe how you got there. I think it'd be really pertinent to this team here.
Yeah, so we took multiple fronts on this. We basically started layering our CEO in different ways. He does a lot of industry speaking, so we started there, basically put a camera in front of him and started to extract content, again, creating this interesting character. From there, we put him on guest podcast and local news just to kind of get his name out there and his personality. And then we started building social media just around him, communicating with team members, basically who he is, what he does, what makes him important, right, or what he cares about. And then came in on the backside with the podcast, and we've been able to grow this significantly. And with that, creating that personal brand actually got interest from Damon John. And connecting to Damon John, you can see the jump in April where Damon John came in, and we're able to utilize kind of this collaboration with him and his audience. And he's gotten us in front of multiple entities to basically tell our story.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, like, Matt has an authentic entrepreneur story, and that made him very relatable, also from where he came from to your entire audience of employees,
Absolutely.
as well as to the broader audience of like blue-collar workers who probably sometimes get like snubbed, especially in this day and economy. And so, like, you've continually grown the brand, more followers, more reach, kind of.
Yeah, you can see this here. It just goes to show how people interact with our brand. So the Crash Champions brand has been around since '99. We have 60,000 total followers from that point. What is that? 25 years ago to today. People just don't connect with the brand itself because you don't need us until you need us, and we're a grudge purchase. We put a personality in front of the brand. Again, we launched Matt in early April. The podcast April of last year. The podcast late of last year. And we already have 135,000 followers that are engaged with this personality.
That's incredible. And so talk to us a little bit about the fact that you have learned how the algorithm works and have increased your following and reach as a whole.
Yeah, so if you go to the slide prior, in our space, in any space, there's two ways to get in front of people. Either you advertise, which costs astronomical amounts of money, or you get other people to talk about you. And before we built our brand around Matt and connecting to Damon John, this was basically our reach last year. So when I look at January to July of last year, 24, the only people talking about Crash Champions was our industry publications. And it's small audiences. You're only reaching people in your industry. Flipping that on its head, if you look at what we've done today, year to date, we have gotten in front of Fortune, Entrepreneur, Inc., Damon John. Now we have all of these other entities that are talking about Matt, which connects us to Crash Champions. And now the conversation's changed. I no longer have to pay for advertising. I have other people talking about my brand in all connection to the podcast and building a unique personality. And it's flipped our business on its head, which is awesome.
Well, so this is what I want you guys to take away from this. Like, building a personality brand, if you're building a podcast brand, is the thing that people actually connect with and people relate with. And so if you want to build your podcast like a professional, if you're truly trying to reach people, make it as authentic and human as possible and use your hosts as part of that story. We'll be up here after the session if you want to have any questions or have any conversations with the man himself, Danny Briones.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
Appreciate it, y'all. Thank you. Thank you.